Yes, people, hope you're all well. Just want to make sure the audio is all up and running because remember last time the audio was a problem. We had to reshoot the video. Yes, people, hope. But let me know if it crooks. Let me just. Yeah, people. So basically, we're going to be doing Premier League predictions, and yeah, we'll get straight into it. It should be good. All right, that should be fine. Right, starting with rock bottom, I'm going to go with Bournemouth. I think Bournemouth are going to finish bottom of the Premier League. I don't think they have quite done enough in terms of transfers, in my opinion. Yes, they brought in Marcus Tavernier from Middlesbrough, but if you look at their outgoings, yes, they let Gary Cahill go. A centre back, yes, that is very old. It's like, what, 34, 35. A player that brought them so much experience into the Championship to guide them back up to the Premier League. Again, they've brought in Fredericks from West Ham. He used to be a backup right back. He's sort of like a second string right back at West Ham. So yeah, they got him on a free transfer, which could do well. They've also brought in Joe Rodwell from Blackburn on another free transfer. So they've not done brilliant business, in my opinion, Bournemouth. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on this season. I do think they'll go finish rock bottom. Scott Parker, you're not going to be able to keep them up. But yeah, moving into 19th place, I've gone for Fulham. We'll switch that around. I've gone for Fulham. I think Fulham are going to. They could shock people. You know, they wasn't far from staying up last time with the players that they had. They've kept their key assets in the likes of Mitrovic and Harry Wilson. Yes, they've let Fabio Carvalho go, a player that scored bags and assists for them. However, they've, in my opinion, done brilliant transfer business. Again, another club that's not done brilliant transfer business. I feel like 43 goals from Mitrovic, he could probably transparent that into maybe 15 goals for the season. It's going to be a tough one. I want to see someone like a Fulham stay up, because it'd be nice to see them stay up. Obviously, like they're just a yo-yo club. I think they're just really happy to just make sure the stream is still up and running. Yeah, they've not. Yeah, I mean, they've brought in Andres Pereira from Manchester United, a player that will bring in a little bit of experience. I think they've got him for around about that £5 million type fee. They've also brought in Kevin Mbabu, again, a right back from the Bundesliga that will do a semi-okay job. A player that's obviously really good on FIFA, but a lot of people have not actually watched him in real life. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how he does under the Fulham system. I don't think Fulham have really done enough. They've not replaced Fabio Carvalho. So it's going to be interesting to see how they get on. But the team I think who's going to be joining them, it's tough. It really is tough. But I'm actually going to go with Leeds. I think it's going to go Bournemouth, Fulham, Leeds. I think Leeds are going to go down. I really do. The reason why I think Leeds will go down will just mainly be because they've not replaced the areas that they should have replaced from last season. And yeah, look, they let Rafinha go. They've let Calvin Phillips go. Bamford is literally injured again for another 2 to 3 months. They brought in that Lewis Sangaria player from Fernwood, who got to a Conference League final, a player that I think who I rate quite high. I think they got him for about 20 million. He will score loads of goals for Jesse March. And I think it's going to be interesting to see how Leeds set up this season because they're still leaking in goals in their system under Jesse March. They're actually struggling to score more goals because they've let Rafinha go. Bamford is injured. I think Leeds will just mainly stay up. Will just come 8th. I think I could probably put even Leeds 19th. I think the reason why I'm putting Leeds 18th is mainly because I think there's two worse teams than Leeds right now. The team I'm going for 17th place is. It's tough. It really is tough. I'm going with. I'm going to go with Forest. I think Forest are going to finish 17th. I think mainly because they've brought in some really nice players. But again, they've got a really nice coach, one of the best coaches from the Championship last season. A manager that came in October after 10 games, took them all the way to a quarterfinals of the FA Cup, and got them to a playoff final, which they arguably there was on form to even get second place from around about 17th position. I think they'll do semi okay. I think they'll be like a Brentford type team where they stay around about that 13th, 14th, and then the quality will just absolutely drop because I feel like the Premier League experience is going to be a massive thing for them. They've brought in the likes of Jesse Lingard, who had a really good loan spell at West Ham. He's only there for a year. They've also brought in who else have they brought in? I'm trying to think off the top of my head. They've brought in Nico Williams, obviously. They brought in that centre back from the Bundesliga, Nketiah, I think will do okay. They brought in Iwobi, who used to play for Liverpool, and again a player. Now this is my ones to watch player because he got 17 goals, around about 17 goals, 20 plus goal contributions in a Union Berlin side in the Bundesliga. If you transplant that to the Premier League, if you can get a good 8 to 10 goals, I think that'd be an absolute solid season for him. They brought him in for around about that 15 to 20 million pound fee. Again, this sinks to Fulham because they've done some smart business, but then they've also done some business, which I've actually been really impressed by bringing in the likes of Wanyesi from Burnley. Now, you may laugh, yes, he's a 35-year-old goalkeeper, but he's a player that's been in those situations before. The relegation battles with Burnley for years and years and years, and he will bring that experience into the changing rooms, and I think that could be really big for the morale of their club. So yeah, I think Wanyesi actually could be one of their biggest signings of the summer. I really do. So yeah, we'll see how he gets on. Obviously, I don't think he'll play over Dean Henderson, also another player that did really well at Sheffield United in his first season, got him to that top 10 position, almost got Sheffield United into the Europa League. There was talks at one point, could Sheffield United actually get European football? But obviously they slipped away and got run about that 9 to 10 position 2 years ago. So yeah, I think 17th position, I think as long as they can survive and then keep working on to build and build and build, we'll see how that is doing. Do you want me to just check my audio, guys? Because obviously I don't want to having to be redoing this again. Yeah, audio is nice and good. Love to see it. But yeah, moving on to the team that I will think I'll be joining them will be Everton Football Club. And the reason why I think Everton will have another stinkier season. Yes, they've brought in McNeil from Burnley. They've brought in James Kortowski, a player that brings in that morale, the confidence. Yes, I think he's a 28-year-old centre-back, a player that's going to bring in the experience and knows how to stay in the Premier League, knows how to defend. I think he would do an absolute brilliant job. On a free transfer, I think that could be one of the bargains of the summer when you actually look back on it from different expected. I think it'd be an absolute banging of a signing, James Kortowski. They've let go of Richarlison, obviously. They've also let go of Fabian Delph, some deadwood of the club, brought in some cash as well. And I feel like they need to reinvest that because what's their front three? Dominic Calvert-Lewin, McNeil, and Gordon. Is that going to be able to keep them up in the Premier League? I think it's just going to be an absolute dogfight down there. I really do. I think there's going to be 6-7 teams that can genuinely go down. It's going to be an absolute madness of the season when it comes to the regular relegation zone. Another club who I think will be joining them potentially in that relegation fight will be Brentford. Now, I'm a fan of Thomas Frank. I think he's had that experience now of staying into the Premier League, 74 years without Brentford being in the top flight, bringing in. I think Brentford are actually going to I think they might have another brilliant season, another season where they can have a nice start like they did last year when they beat Arsenal on the opening day 2-0 and have another great season. Oh my God, breaking news. Newcastle have made a second bid worth of 50 mil for Leicester. Oh no, that's old news. I don't know why Sky late on that. That was literally from like 2 days ago. But again, to bring in if they can bring in another attacker to replace Richarlison, I think they can maybe do a job because we've seen that there was really unlucky last season as well with injuries. So like the likes of Decore, one of those players that was balling out in the midfield. They had injuries all over the back. Jordan Pickford was pulling masterclasses in goal. So it'd be interesting to see. I think they will just survive mainly because I think there's three worst teams and all of them. Otherwise, I would have put Everton in that relegation zone. Moving on. Could we see Brighton? I'm going to go with Brighton. This is a shock one. I think losing Cucurella potentially to Chelsea, losing Bissouma's now, I'm going to go a player that can boss the pitch on any day of the week. We saw twice last season at Anfield where Bissouma came on for Brighton, dominating the pitch when we drew 2-2 with them. And I think he's going to be an absolute massive miss for Brighton. They barely score goals. Yes, they're really sound defensively in that back five system that Graham Potter plays, who I do think will be a future England manager. But I think with the likes of not bringing in another goal scorer, can you really rely on Mepu and Trossard? No, I don't think they can. So it'd be interesting to see if they do bring in a striker within the next 2 to 3 weeks of the transfer window. Yeah, it's going to be an absolute madness. I think in 13th place, we'll see Southampton. I think Southampton could have a really nice season. They've had some up and down seasons over the past couple of years, Southampton. They got to that League Cup final a couple of years ago, which they did lose to Man United. I think, again, if they can get the likes of Che Adams firing up front and being sound at the back, they've got brought in. Is it Salisu, the centre back for Southampton? A very promising centre back who I think could work wonders for him. Another one of those centre backs another Southampton wonder kid that they're bringing through the systems and the youth. I think he will absolutely be a beast in this up and coming season for them. So it'd be interesting to see if they do make any more transfer signings. What they play a 4-4-2. I feel like they need another striker. Potentially, you could argue maybe a box-to-box centre mid to join in the Southampton team. But I think they will just survive. I think the thing is with Southampton is when they come to the end of the season, they always get those 2-3 wins on the bounce and they just about survive. But yeah, moving on into 12th place is I'm going with Crystal Palace. No, why is not doing it? I think Crystal Palace, right, have made some smart business over the past couple of years, bringing in Guy, Tyrant Mitchell, two absolute left back and centre back who was sick for Palace last season. They're building something. They're playing good football under Patrick Vieira. And under Roy Hodgson, they're just playing that negative defensive football, just trying to survive. If Edouard can get front and firing, Zaha got 14 goals last season. If he can get firing again, I don't see why not. They can be pushing for that top 10 and then potentially over the next couple of seasons, even push the Europa League. I genuinely think they're going in the right direction under Patrick Vieira. Obviously, they have lost out on Conor Gallagher, who will be a massive miss. But if they, again, with Eze, man, who I think Eze is an absolute baller, but he's just been really unlucky with injuries over the past couple of years. And if he can get a bit of consistency this season, I don't see why not he can't replace some of Conor Gallagher's numbers for Crystal Palace. Moving in to 11th position, I think Wolves. And the thing is for me with Wolves, I think the reason why they won't get that around about that top 10 position or even push for that Conference League is mainly because, again, they're another team that is brilliant defensively with the likes of Kilman at the back, Connor Cody, Sias at the back as well. Three absolute decent centre backs that can do a job for them and that will easily keep them in that top 10. But again, if you look at their front line, Pedro Neto, he's been injured for the past year and a half. Podence, who I think is a baller, is just really inconsistency with the fluidity of Jimenez. And if they can get Neto, Jimenez, Podence firing, they could potentially get into that top 8 position. But I just don't think they will, mainly because Jimenez, he's getting on now, and he's not really recovered from that injury. But if they can get a good 10 plus goals from it, I think that'll be a really good season from Jimenez. The next team, who I think 13th, 12th, 11th, will be Aston Villa. I think Aston Villa have made some smart business. I'm happy with their business. And now I want to keep an eye on them this season. They brought in Diego Carlos from Seville, a player that is around like 24, 25. I think he'll do a job for them. If they can get rid of Mings, and I think they can, Carlos will do a job. They've kept Felipe Coutinho, who got that 10 plus goal involvements last season. They've also brought in Kamara from Marseille. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how they do. They've also let rid of Gosling. They've let Matt Target go because obviously they've got Lucas Digne now, so they don't need Matt Target. Obviously, he would have been decent for a bit of depth, but they also let some other Deadwood go with the likes of Trezeguet, Wesley go, who have just not quite cut it for the previous manager in Dean Smith. Let me just check how long we've been recording. 16 minutes. Moving in to that 9th position, I think is going to be Leicester. Now, I think Leicester, if they can keep hold of James Maddison, which they've been linked with Newcastle, Wesley Fofana, who I think is one of the best centre-backs in the league, I really do. I think he'll go for easily 18, 19 million. He'll break Harry Maguire's transfer record. Because obviously Leicester has come out and said they want 90 plus million for him. I think he's worth that. I really do, because obviously, actually, no. He's not worth that now, but in a couple of years, I think he has the potential to be worth that. He's 22. They got him for 30 million. 30 million. He played 18 senior games before joining Leicester, balled it out 2 seasons ago, then got an ACL injury against, who was it, Napoli or someone? I think it was Napoli. So yeah, it's quite unfortunate, and they've been really unlucky with injuries. Ricardo Pereira being injured, obviously. Again, another player I want to speak about is Patson Daka. 11 goals last season, and he wasn't even playing all the games. 11 goal involvements, 11 plus goal involvements. Jamie Vardy got 11 plus goals. For a player that played 26 matches last season, if they can keep Iheanacho fit, Harvey Barnes fit, and it looks like obviously Lookman is going to be going to possibly Napoli, which I think is a massive miss, because I was a massive fan of watching Iheanacho, Lookman, and Patson Daka as a front three. But it looks like they're going to be going into the system with playing with 2 strikers of Iheanacho and Daka, with Vardy being about 36 years old now. He's not going to be playing every single game. But moving on into 7th place, I think it's going to be on an 8th position, Newcastle. I think Newcastle are building something under Eddie Howe. With the likes of Bruno Gomes coming in, Kieran Trippier coming in. They've brought in Nick Pope, a professional international English goalkeeper who's about 29. And I think he'll bring experience from staying in the Premier League. And I think he'll transparent that into the Newcastle team to be really sound defensively. If they can bring in another attacker to go along with the likes of Saint Maximin and Joe Linton, who plays as that battering ram, box to box midfielder, I think they can have a really good season. If they can go on a cup run as well, I don't see why Newcastle can't reach that, going for that top 9, top 8 positions, and then keep building and building. We know they're going to get better and better every year. But there's 7 teams left. I think it's going to be in 7th place, West Ham. West Ham finished 17th last season. They signed who was it, like Simare from the Serie. So it's going to be interesting to see how he gets on this season for them. What's he going to be like? I'm interested to see watching, because obviously I've not actually really properly watched him play. So yeah, it's going to be interesting to watch him. And yeah, West Ham, they've got a really good squad. We're keeping the likes of Fornals, Declan Rice. They've brought in Areola, a quality goalkeeper, experienced as well. What is he, like 27, 28? So I think he'll do a good job for West Ham. Yes, they let the likes of Mark Noble go, but they're a bit of dead wood. And I think if they can keep Antonio fit, which at times he was very inconsistent with injuries, I think he got what, like 15 goals last season. So if they can get another brilliant output from him, again, I think Jarrod Bowen's going to hit the season running again because look, he knows he's not a fan favorite. Everyone knows Jarrod Bowen should be going to the World Cup. However, in my opinion, I think he has an argument to even start in the World Cup. And I think he's going to be even pushing and pushing and pushing for that position. And it's going to be interesting to see how they're going to get on the season. Obviously, look, they played a lot of football last season. They got to what? The Europa League semi-final, lost out to Frankfurt. They also, they don't heavily rotate. They haven't got enough squad depth over the next couple of weeks before the transfer window ends. I think they need to bring in a couple of more squad players, and then they could probably push into break that top six like they did 2 seasons ago. But again, if they can get seventh again, which is Conference League football, they're in the Conference League now, and just keep building and building, add more squad players to your team, and I don't see why not one day they could keep pushing and pushing and pushing. But there are 5 teams left now. I think no, not the sixth. Sorry, I think in sixth place will be. I think Man United will finish sixth, mainly because I don't. Again, look, they kept Ronaldo. Looks like he could potentially move him back to Sporting Lisbon. They've brought in Martinez from Ajax, 60 million, a player that is very versatile, that can play in that centre back, left back, CDM role. So yeah, it would be interesting to see how they use him. Will they use him as a left back? Because I'm not a fan. Yes, they brought in, was it that Malanga guy from Feyenoord? Feyenoord. So yeah, it's gonna be interesting to see how he used. Will they interchange between him and Luke Shaw? I don't know. I think they will use him as a centre back personally, and I don't think his height's going to be an issue because he's what 5'8", 5'9". You look at some centre backs in the league that are like Nathan Ake, for example, a good, decent centre back on his day. He's what 5'10", and he does a job. I think he'll do a good job for Man United this season. What he's an up and coming good centre back. I think they'll partner him with Varane if they can keep him fit, or even potentially Eric Bailly. Again, I think Eriksen's a really good centre back midfielder to bring in on a free transfer. Experience, he's going to score, and I think he'll bring that mentality into the changing room. He obviously won a Serie A league title. He's got that mentality to never give up. You know, he had a heart attack on the pitch in the Euros last season, came back, and he was balling it out for Brentford. And I think he'll do the same. I think they'll use him as that roaming eight midfielder, as that box to box, and then Bruno Fernandes as the 10. And I think if they can get Jadon Sancho firing this season, like we saw at the back end of last season, when he was showing that raw potential, I think they'll probably get top six or potentially try and win the Europa League to get into the Champions League. But I think the other 5 teams are better than them right now. And in fifth place, I'm going with Chelsea. I think Chelsea in fifth. They brought in Lukaku. Brought in Lukaku. They've let Lukaku go. Timo Werner looks like he's going to be gone. Ziyech has gone. They brought in Koulibaly. I think he will do an absolute. He's again 31-year-old international. I think he's going to do an absolute brilliant job for Chelsea at the back with switching up with maybe if they do bring in the likes of Kimpembe or Fofana, and then they'll have some real nice squad depth with Thiago Silva alongside that. Yes, they've let some really good, nice key assets go in the likes of Christensen. But for me, Chelsea now need to look to bring in some more midfielders. I'm looking at N'Golo Kante. He's aging. He's on the decline. He's 30. He's 30 plus now. Jorginho is 30 plus. He's on the decline. I think if they can use Conor Gallagher, I think it'd be a fresh start for them. Yes, he's not had a great preseason so far. However, if they can get him firing, I don't see why not. And bring in another attacker. I think they need to bring in another attacker, a midfielder, and a right back to back up to Reece James, personally. But to take the top 4 in fourth place, I'm going with Arsenal. I think Arsenal have done some tremendous business. They've let the likes of Tavares go. They've kept the likes of Ben White, Gabriel, Saliba looks like he's balling it at the back from in pre-season. They've brought in Gabriel Jesus, who's going to score goals for them. That creative type winger. They've let Lacazette go, some of the dead wood as well. I think how they could sort of line up with that. Gabriel Jesus, they've kept Nketiah on a new contract who was decent for them at the back end of last season. Smith Rowe, Bukayo Saka, I think they can have a real good shot of fourth place this season. I really, really do. I think they could even potentially push third, but I do think a certain Tottenham Hotspur will finish in third place. I think they've done some tremendous business bringing in the likes of Lenley. Yes, he's not the perfect centre back, but he brings experience as well. They brought in Perisic, a Serie A winner. He knows the Conte system very well in that back five system that they play. So he knows the system well, which is really key. They've brought in Jed Spence, that attacking right wing back, how I think they'll play as well. Yes, there was links with Bastoni. They couldn't quite get Bastoni. But again, if they can bring in a centre back to partner Romero, one of the future centre backs for the Premier League, Romero, I think he's an absolute outstanding centre back. They've brought in Bissouma. They've kept Bentancur. Bissouma, right, is an absolute steal for 25 million from Brighton. A player that can dominate the pitch on his own. I think he's going to be a tremendous signing. I think he's going to be one of those signings where we're going to look back at the end of the season. I think he could be one of the signings of the seasons. I really do. They've brought in also Richarlison, who's going to be interchanging between Son, Kane, Kulusevski, so they have a bit more depth now to allow them not just solidly relying on Harry Kane and Son. They've got Kulusevski. They've got Richarlison, who will score that 5 to 10 plus goals if he is playing as a backup striker. But it's time to move on. Man City, Liverpool are left in my predictions. Who do I think will win the title? I'm going to go with Liverpool. All right, I'm going to go with us to win the title. I am. But we're going to speak on why I think Man City will finish second. Now, it depends. They need a left back. They're not going to get Cucurella because it looks like he will be going to Chelsea. So yeah, it'd be interesting to see how that gets on. They brought in Calvin Phillips, a backup to. I think Calvin Phillips could be an underrated signing. I really do. The 34 million replacing Fernandinho. He's cut that age gap by 7 years, right? Fernandinho played 33 games last season. Calvin Phillips will play more because why? He's fitter and he's better right now. I'm not saying Calvin Phillips is actually overall better than Fernandinho, but if you take age into account, Calvin Phillips was better than him. And yes, he was injured a lot last season, but if he can get consistency this season and be that backup CDM to Rodri, I think he could have a really good season when he plays for Man City. It looks like Bernardo Silva could potentially go to Barcelona. I think that could be an absolute steal if Bernardo Silva does go. They've let Raheem Sterling go, a player that is a creative winger. They've let Gabriel Jesus go. I would have tried to kept Sterling personally because we've seen in 18-19 season he got 25 plus goal involvements playing alongside a striker. We know Man City do not play with a striker, right? With the likes of bringing Erling Haaland in, if they can get them through balls into the box, make them creative runs into the box, he will lay them off and he'll get assists and he'll get goals linking it with Erling Haaland.